Chapter 31. Priest and Prophet and Self-Satisfaction. Deuteronomy chapter 9, verses 7 to 29. Remember and forget not how thou provokest the Lord thy God to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that thou didst depart out of the land of Egypt, until ye came unto this place. Ye have been rebellious against the Lord. Also in Horeb ye provoked the Lord to wrath, so that the Lord was angry with you to have destroyed you. When I was gone up into the mount to receive the tablets of stone, even the tables of the covenants which the Lord made with you, then I abode in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I neither did eat bread nor drink water. And the Lord delivered unto me 2 tables of stone written with the finger of God, and on them was written according to all the words which the Lord spake with you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. And the Lord said unto me, Arise, get thee down quickly from hence, for thy people which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They are quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten image. Furthermore, the Lord spake unto me, saying, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Let me alone, that I may destroy them, and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make of thee a nation mightier and greater than they. So I turned and came down from the mount, and the mount burned with fire, and the 2 tables of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, ye had sinned against the Lord your God, and had made you a molten calf. Ye had turned aside quickly out of the way which the Lord had commanded you. And I took the 2 tables, and cast them out of my 2 hands, and brake them before your eyes. And I fell down before the Lord, as at the first, 40 days and 40 nights. I did neither eat bread nor drink water, because of all your sins which ye sinned, in doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure wherewith the Lord was wroth against you, to destroy you. But the Lord hearkened unto me at that time also. And the Lord was very angry with Aaron to have destroyed him, and I prayed for Aaron also the same time. And I took your sin, the calf which ye had made, and burnt it with fire, and stamped it, and ground it very small, even until it was as small as dust, and I cast the dust thereof into the brook that descended out of the mount. And at Taberah, and at Massa, and at Kibroth-Hattaavah, ye provoked the Lord to wrath. Likewise, when the Lord sent you from Kadesh-Barnea, saying, Go up and possess the land which I have given you, then you rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God, and ye believed him not, nor hearkened to his voice. Ye have been rebellious against the Lord from the day that I knew you. Thus I fell down before the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, as I fell down at the first, because the Lord had said he would destroy you. I prayed therefore unto the Lord, and said, O Lord God, destroy not thy people and thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed through thy greatness, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember thy servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Look not unto the stubbornness of this people, nor to their wickedness, nor to their sin. Lest the land whence thou broughtest us out say, Because the Lord was not able to bring them into the land which he promised them, and because he hated them, and hath brought them out to slay them in the wilderness. Yet they are thy people and thine inheritance, which thou broughtest out by thy mighty power and by thy stretched out arm. Deuteronomy chapter 9, verses 7 to 29. Daniel F. Payne has pointed out that this chapter is a very important index to history. The most blessed nation of the ancient world is shown to have a long history of disobedience. Although their history from Egypt to the borders of Canaan was a series of miracles, we find no reference anywhere to anyone other than Moses looking back with awe and gratitude. Instead, the Hebrews showed themselves to be consummate ingrates, whiners, cowards, and fools. Only for the sake of his word to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did God bless them. But there is more here. We have a contrast between the faithfulness of Moses, God's prophet, and Aaron the high priest. Aaron was the forefather of all priests in Israel. The function of priests is to maintain an orderly sequence of worship, whereas the prophet challenges the shortcomings of the age. Neither the Church of the Old Testament nor that of the Christian era has been fond of prophets. They challenge the status quo and are disruptive of institutional peace and routine. This was not to say that Aaron was an evil man. Despite moments of weakness, he was, in the main, faithful, but not forceful. It was Moses, God's prophet, who again and again challenged the evils of Israel. In verses 7 and 8, Israel is bluntly reminded of its past sins. 3 words bring out the warning: remember and forget not. Nations are prone to remember things that are pleasing and flattering, whereas God requires that we remember our sins and God's grace, and to avoid forgetfulness, complacency, and self-satisfaction. There is another aspect to these verses which we must take note of: the intensity of feeling and the resultant dedication. In verse 18, for example, Moses' radical fasting seems impossible to us. We are not given to such total commitments. Before World War II, it was a little more common to hear of ordinary Catholics and Protestants fasting for some time because of an intense concern. Somehow, they seemed to have a supernormal ability to survive untroubled and without any outward indication of what they were doing. We have had imitations of religious fasting by some leftists and prisoners to call attention to their cause. But Christian fasting is relatively uncommon. Moses stressed that Israel's redemption was an act of mercy on God's part. No credit or virtue belonged to Israel. God, not Israel, is the righteous one, and it would be sin for Israel to take any credit to itself. Verses 4 to 6. When Moses came down from the mountain and found Israel engaged in fertility cult worship, he broke the 2 tablets of stone on which the 10 Commandments were written, because the covenant had been broken and was now null and void. The death penalty for its violation now applied to Israel. Because of this penalty, Moses immediately fasted and prayed. He became the intercessor with God for Israel to prevent the execution of the death penalty. What we see first is that Israel was prayed for by Moses to prevent its immediate annihilation. He clearly recognized that God's justice required Israel's death. Verse 19. Second, Moses made particular intercession for Aaron. Verse 20. At the same time, Moses destroyed the golden bull calf. Moreover, third, he reduced the lump of molten gold to fine powder. He then threw the gold dust into a fast-running mountain brook to make retrieval impossible. Edward P. Blair rightly called attention to the fact that Deuteronomy, like the New Testament, stresses that salvation is the unmerited gift of God. Israel's success was God's work. God's providence had prepared the way for Israel, and the people could not take credit for God's grace, mercy, or care. Verse 14 is especially moving. God tells Moses, "Let me alone that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make of thee a nation mightier and greater than they." let me alone is, in the Hebrew literally, loosen your grip from me. And this gives us a vivid image of the intensity of Moses' prayer. Moses was concerned with God's honour, verses 27 and 28, not Israel's safety. To destroy Israel would be to undo the great miracle of deliverance God had wrought. Moses recounts all this so that the new generation might, with humility, assume their task. They were not a great people, rather, they had a great God. When we examine the besetting sin of Judea in the New Testament era, we find it is very clearly Phariseeism. Phariseeism is a form of hypocrisy and self-righteousness. It is precisely this self-righteousness that Moses here condemns. When God is merciful and gracious to a people, they cannot claim this favour on God's part as a merit on their part. Self-righteousness before God inverts the moral scale and has man contributing to God's cause and adding to his work. Self-righteousness makes a claim on God and is thus the antithesis of true religion. As Reverend J. Orr wrote, "The nature of the error is a magnified opinion of one's righteousness, the idea that it is our righteousness which is the meritorious ground of the bestowal of blessing. The Jews might not suppose that they were absolutely righteous, though some of the later Pharisees seem almost to have gone this length. Luke 18, verse 11. But they thought they were so far righteous as to have established a claim on God's justice for what they had. This is a state of mind into which men glide half unconsciously. We often say it in our hearts when we would be ashamed to avow it with our lips. The self-complacency, for example, which accepts prosperity as the reward of superior virtue, the self-satisfaction which esteems such rewards due to it, the complaint of injustice which is raised when blessings are removed, betrays its presence. In the spiritual sphere, the tendency is evidenced in the denial of the need for salvation, in the self-justifying spirit which refuses to accept the position of one condemned and justly exposed to wrath, in the reassertion in subtler or coarser forms of the principle of salvation by works. In whatever degree a man thinks himself entitled to acceptance with God and to spiritual blessings, whether on the ground of obedience to prescribed rules or on the ground of internal characteristics, faith, holiness, etc., he is permitting himself to fall into this error. As we have seen, Moses stresses memory. Remember, he declares, your guilt. However, his purpose is not to make them a guilt-ridden people, but rather to require of them a reliance on grace. Without God's forgiveness and grace, we are both guilt-ridden, but also given to suppressing our guilt under a facade of self-righteousness. To remember our guilt in faith is also to know God's forgiving grace and to rely on Him rather than on ourselves. God clearly stresses the reprobation of the Canaanites, verse 5, and He does this to warn Israel that what He regards is not a people's pretenses, but their lives. If Israel violates God's covenant, grace, and law, Israel will be no less reprobate than the Canaanites. Approbation comes only to those faithful to God's covenant. Moses, by reviewing Israel's faithfulness to God's covenant, was dredging up humiliating memories, not simply to degrade them, but to enable them to view themselves in terms of God's grace rather than their false pride. Moses' purpose was to strengthen their faith. In verses 22 and 23, Moses cites the sites of their rebellions against God. These were Taberah, Numbers chapter 11, verses 2 and 3, Massah, Exodus chapter 17, verse 7, Kibroth Hattaavah, Numbers 11 verses 33 and 34, and Kadesh Barnea, Numbers chapter 13 verses 31 and 33. These were not the only instances of grumbling and unbelief, but they were enough to make it clear that Israel's history was not one of merit, whatever their pride might be. Israel's error was one common to man's history, and to be found in many peoples and nations. Success is assumed to be a natural, inherent quality of a particular people. This assumption is an outgrowth of the belief that man, not God, determines history. It follows, then, that a people's rise to eminence and power are due to their natural virtue rather than to God's sovereign plan and purpose. Men are unwilling to recognize that the natural inclination of men and nations is more towards Nineveh and Sodom than to God. On their own, the peoples of this world are like the nations of Canaan. No man nor nation earns this earth nor heaven. History is not a human product, but a divine plan. Seen humanistically, history can only lead us to despair. Seen biblically, we know God is at work, and all his ways are justice and truth. In the vortex of history, we see the priestly mentality at work in every sphere. Certainly, in both church and state, there is no lack of manpower dedicated to the belief that what they, the institutionalists, represent is a part of an unending order. They work, therefore, to maintain that order and to further its power. As against this, the prophetic spirit witnesses against the established order in the name of the triune God. Clearly, priests are needed, but without the prophetic voices, a people will perish. A people's self-satisfaction and self-righteousness will have prevailed.